Joining me now on the Daily Ledger Page 5 beat from Phoenix, Arizona, economic analyst, hedge fund manager, and contributor to Forbes and other major publications, Thomas Landstreet. Thomas, let's start with the public sector, shall we? There are reports out there that the Federal Reserve, it's not a secret, it's just that most people are not paying attention, but we are, and that is that the Federal Reserve is pumping billions, tens of billions of dollars into what's called the repo market. This effectively is overnight lending that banks use. Apparently, there is a liquidity problem, a major liquidity problem, because this infusion of money by the Federal Reserve keeps going on. We've been talking about this, sorry to sound like a broken record, but we've been talking about this for weeks now, weeks on end.
Yeah, it's getting worse. Since the repo hiccup, Graham, September 17th, the Fed has injected $4 trillion into the system. They did $108 billion in repo operations last Wednesday, right before Thanksgiving. So what was going to be a temporary action, around the tax calendar of October 15th has now become permanent and getting bigger. And now there's fear about the year end, which companies will have to preserve their cash, going into the year and preparing for their tax payments as well. It just shows, like you said, the economy's not that bad, but there's just too much debt, Graham. That's the problem. And the debt is at very high interest rates. And that's the real problem. They actually have to do this. And by the way, this was all set up by Janet Yellen and Ben Bernanke after the last crisis.
And this is effectively, just to kind of narrow it down, Tom, this is effectively a form of quantitative easing, right? And our economy, quantitative easing is what the Fed is doing, infusing cash into the system. But it's like an economic heroin, unfortunately. And our economy in the private sector now, it wants more economic heroin every day.
Well, it does, and it needs it. And, without it, we could see a significant crisis and meltdown. And Jay Powell's already said he's not going to allow financial conditions to deteriorate enough to where they topple us off into a recession. They appear to have learned from the last, crisis when the Fed moved a little too slowly. But nothing's changed. The debt has just moved from household balance sheets to corporate and government balance sheets. You know what's happening with the corporate debt binge. Over $10 trillion of corporate debt is outstanding. And one more thing, Graham, that you and I don't know if I've mentioned to you, but, earnings quality is very sketchy right now. If you look at the way companies are reporting their numbers, they're reporting adjusted EBITDA, which is a cash flow metric. They're even reporting adjusted revenues. So tell me how you adjust revenues, Graham. Aren't revenues just money in the door into the cash register? How do you adjust that? I understand adjusting other income statement matters, but look, my friend David Trainer, he works on earnings quality. He says that real earnings, cash earnings are down 6% year over year. That does not bode well for being able to service this gigantic amount of corporate debt. It scares me to death.
And to put it simply, there's too many junk bonds out there, and the risk is growing. As the risk is growing in the private sector, the risk is growing in the public sector. At some point, we're going to have to be the adults in the room and address this risk that we're putting to everyone in this U.S. economy. Thomas, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.